Grief is a strange country, one you never plan to visit. The air is too thick to breathe. The colors are all washed out, and every sound is either a deafening silence or a memory that hits you like a physical blow. I was a citizen of that country now, and my passport was the program I held in my hand, adorned with the smiling face of my older brother, Alex. My brother, Alex, my hero. The guy who taught me how to ride a bike, who took the blame when I broke Dad's vintage watch, who stood between me and every bully our school ever produced. He was more than a brother. He was my anchor. And 2 weeks ago, a late-night drive on a slick, rain-swept highway, and just like that, my anchor was gone. The official report was clear. A single vehicle accident. Lost control. No signs of mechanical failure. An open and shut case of tragic misfortune. But standing there, watching his wife, Clara, sob so violently her parents had to hold her up, something felt off. It was a feeling, a cold, slithering sensation in my gut that had nothing to do with the November chill. Maybe it was the way her father, Robert, kept checking his expensive watch, or the way her mother, Eleanor's tears, seemed practiced. They were wealthy, old money types who had never quite approved of Alex, a self-made tech entrepreneur. They'd wanted Clara to marry someone from their own world. I dismissed it. Grief makes you paranoid. It makes you look for monsters in the shadows because facing the utter randomness of loss is too terrifying. The priest was saying the final words. I tried to focus, to say my own silent goodbye. And then my phone vibrated in my purse. A jarring, intrusive sound in the sacred quiet. I flinched, embarrassment hot on my face. I'd meant to turn it off. I fumbled for it, intent on silencing the thing, when I saw the screen. A private number. My thumb hovered over the decline button. But something, that same gut feeling, made me open it. The message was short, just 11 words, but they unraveled my entire reality right there, standing 6 feet above my brother's coffin. I'm alive. Don't trust my wife's parents. Play along, I'll explain. My breath hitched. The world tilted. The priest's voice, Clara's sobs, the patter of rain, it all melted into a distorted, meaningless hum. This wasn't happening. This was some cruel, sick joke. A prank by some twisted individual who got their kicks from tormenting grieving families. But Alex always signed his texts that way. Always. It was our thing. A quirk no one else would know to replicate. My head snapped up. My eyes scanned the mourners. Clara, shattered. Robert, stoic, a hand on her shoulder. Eleanor, dabbing her eyes with a black lace handkerchief. Were they watching me? Did they see the seismic shift happening inside me? Play along, the text said. Play along. How does one play along at their brother's funeral when a ghost just texted them? I forced my features into a mask of continued grief. I let a single real tear trace a path down my cheek. A tear of now utterly confused anguish. I shoved the phone back into my purse like it was a live grenade. My heart wasn't mourning anymore. It was a jackhammer against my ribs. A drumbeat of pure, unadulterated panic. The rest of the service was a blur. The lowering of the casket, the handful of dirt tossed onto the lid, the sympathetic pats on the back that felt like accusations. I moved through it all like an automaton, my mind screaming one question on a loop. Is he alive? At the post-funeral gathering at Alex and Clara's beautiful modern home, a house he'd designed himself, the feeling of wrongness intensified. The house was full of his things, his presence, but it felt like a museum exhibit. a staged performance. Robert clinked a spoon against a glass. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice the epitome of measured, dignified sorrow. "We are all devastated by the loss of Alexander. A brilliant light, extinguished too soon." I watched him, really watched him. His grief seemed to emanate from his mouth, not his eyes. His eyes were calculating. They scanned the room, assessing, controlling. "As you know," Robert continued, "Alex's tech startup, Ether Innovations, was on the verge of a monumental breakthrough, a new data encryption software. Unfortunately, he was the sole holder of the core algorithm. With him gone," he sighed, a perfectly performed sound of regret. "The company is essentially valueless. A tragedy upon a tragedy." My blood ran cold. Alex had called me, excited. Just a month ago. "Leonora, it's done. The vault is operational. It's unbreakable. We're going to change everything. And don't worry. I've put everything in a digital lockbox. The passphrase is your birthday. Backwards. You're my backup, little sis." He'd told me. Not Clara. He said her parents were always sniffing around, asking about the company's valuation, offering to help with investors who had strings attached. Alex hated strings. And now Robert was standing in his house, telling everyone his life's work was worthless. Eleanor floated over to me, placing a cold, thin hand on my arm. "We're so worried about Clara," she whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears that now looked manufactured to me. "She's just broken. And the financial burdens, this house, the medical bills, it's all so much. We're doing everything we can to support her, of course." It was a masterpiece of manipulation, layering concern for their daughter with a not-so-subtle implication of impending financial doom. They were setting the stage. Why? Later, I found a moment alone in Alex's home office, his sanctuary. The place still smelled like him. His coffee, his stupidly expensive sandalwood cologne. My hands were shaking. I went to his bookshelf, to the copy of Dune he'd read to me when we were kids. He'd always said it was about resilience, about seeing the traps laid out before you. Tucked inside was a key to a storage unit I didn't know he had. The text had said, "I'll explain." This had to be it. This was the first clue. Have you ever had a moment where your entire world split in two? The reality everyone else sees, and the terrifying, thrilling secret truth that only you know. Let me know in the comments if you've ever kept a secret that could blow up everything. That night, under the cover of a downpour, I drove to the storage facility. The unit was unmarked. Inside, it wasn't filled with boxes of old junk. It was a command center. A laptop. A secure satellite phone. Stacks of documents. And a wall covered in notes, photographs, and strings connecting them like a detective's murder board. But it wasn't a murder board. It was an escape board. And in the center was a photo of Robert and Eleanor. The laptop powered on, asking for a passphrase. My birthday. Backwards. The screen flickered to life. A video file was open, named For Leonora. If anything happens. I clicked play. And there he was. Alex. Alive. Pale. With a healing cut on his forehead. But alive. He was sitting in this very storage unit. Leonora. If you're watching this, my plan worked. And I am so sorry I had to put you through this. Please believe me. If there was any other way. He took a shaky breath. Clara's parents. They're not just wealthy snobs, Leonora. They're broke. completely bankrupt. Their entire fortune is a house of cards built on shady investments and loans from some very, very dangerous people. They found out about my work on The Vault. They didn't just want a piece of it. They wanted to take it. All of it. And then sell it to the highest bidder. No matter who that was, foreign governments, cyber terrorists, it didn't matter. He explained everything. They'd threatened Clara. They said if he didn't hand over the algorithm, they'd make her life a living hell, drag her through endless litigation, cut her off completely. They'd even made vague, chilling threats about a car accident if he didn't comply. I knew I couldn't fight them head on. They have too much reach, too many corrupt contacts. I had to disappear. I had to make them think they'd won, that the algorithm was lost with me. The accident. It was staged. I'm sorry you had to grieve. I'm sorry Clara has to grieve. It's the worst part of this. But it was the only way to make them believe it. The only way to keep her safe while I gathered evidence to put them away for good. The video ended. I sat there in the stark light of the unit, my mind reeling. My brother was a ghost, hunting bigger ghosts. He'd faked his own death to protect his wife and his life's work from her monstrous parents. The grief that had been crushing me for weeks transformed. It didn't vanish. It mutated. It became a cold, sharp, focused fury. They had put me through this. They had put Clara through this. They had mourned their own son-in-law while secretly being the reason he was forced to abandon his life. I was no longer just a grieving sister. I was now an actor in my brother's play. And the performance of a lifetime was just beginning. The next few days were a masterclass in deception. I played my part perfectly. The devastated little sister, lost without her guide. I spent time with Clara, who was a hollow shell of herself. My heart broke for her anew, knowing the truth her parents had weaponized her grief. Every kind word from Robert and Eleanor felt like a spider's kiss. I gained their trust. I let Robert console me about the collapse of Ether Innovations. "It's a shame, Leonora," he said, pouring us 2 glasses of expensive bourbon he'd brought into Alex's house. "All that potential. But without the core asset, the company is a corpse. I'm handling the dissolution proceedings, trying to salvage what little we can for Clara." The lie was so smooth, so practiced. He was liquidating my brother's company for pennies on the dollar, probably to one of his own shell corporations, waiting for the heat to die down before they somehow found the algorithm they thought was lost. I nodded, feigning gratitude. "Thank you, Robert. I don't know what we'd do without you." Meanwhile, using the secure phone from the storage unit, I was communicating with Alex. He was nearby, living under a false name, gathering financial records, covertly recorded conversations, everything he needed to bring down his in-laws. Our plan was simple. I would become his inside man. Robert, growing more confident, started to see me as a useful idiot. He even offered me a job helping to wind down Ether's affairs. It was the perfect access. But the stakes were raised to a terrifying new level a week later. Clara, her eyes still red but with a flicker of her old spirit, pulled me aside. "Leonora, this is going to sound crazy," she whispered, "but I'm pregnant. I just found out. I was going to tell Alex the night." She broke down. I held her, my own mind screaming. A baby. Alex's baby. This changed everything. Robert and Eleanor wouldn't just want the company now. They would want the heir. They would use that child as the ultimate tool to control whatever remained of Alex's empire. Clara and the baby were now the central pieces in this horrific game. I relayed the news to Alex that night. The silence on the other end of the secure line was longer and heavier than any I'd ever heard. "We have to move faster. They can't get their hands on my child. They can't." The final act was set. We had the evidence. The fraudulent transfers. The recorded threats. The proof that Robert had paid off the coroner and a police officer to confirm the identity of the body in the car a John Doe Alex had paid to be there, but met with his untimely death. A tragic vagrant who would, at least, be given a hero's burial once the truth was out. We planned to deliver it all to a special agent with the FBI that Alex had secretly been working with for months. We would do it at the reading of the will, an event Robert and Eleanor were eagerly anticipating, believing they'd manipulated Clara into being the sole beneficiary of a worthless estate. The day of the reading arrived. The atmosphere in the lawyer's office was thick with tension you could taste. Clara sat, hands resting on her still flat stomach. Robert and Eleanor flanked her like elegant vultures. The lawyer began reading. Standard bequests. The house to Clara. His personal effects to me. Then, the lawyer paused, and regarding his majority shareholding and intellectual property of Ether Innovations, Robert leaned forward almost imperceptibly, a hunter catching the scent of prey. It is to be placed in a blind trust, the lawyer read, to be managed by his brother, Leonora Evans, until such a time as his child reaches the age of 25. Robert's face went from calm to furious crimson in a nanosecond. What? That's absurd. The company is worthless. This is a meaningless gesture. It was the crack in his facade we needed. Just then, the door to the office opened. Alex stood there. He wasn't the ghost from the storage unit video. He was Alex, my brother, clean-shaven, wearing a suit, his eyes burning with a ferocious mix of love and fury. The reaction was pandemonium. Clara screamed, a sound of pure, uncomprehending shock, and fainted. Eleanor let out a shriek that was downright theatrical. But Robert just stared. His face wasn't shocked. It was enraged, defeated. He knew the game was up. You, he snarled. Hello, Robert, Alex said, his voice calm and steady, though I could see the tremor in his hands. Miss me? Before Robert could move, 2 FBI agents stepped into the room behind Alex. Robert and Eleanor Whitmore. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, extortion, coercion, and the attempted theft of intellectual property. As the agents read them their rights, Alex rushed to Clara, who was stirring, her eyes wide with a terror and hope so immense it was heartbreaking. Alex, is it really you? It's me, my love, he whispered, holding her, tears streaming down both their faces. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I did it to protect you, to protect us. The look of utter betrayal on Robert's face as he was led away wasn't for getting caught. It was for being outsmarted. He'd thought himself the puppet master, only to find his own strings had been cut all along. The scandal ripped through the city's elite. The evidence was irrefutable. Robert and Eleanor are now awaiting trial. Their empire, truly gone, replaced by a prison of their own making. The body from the car was given a proper burial. His family finally given closure thanks to a generous donation from Alex in the man's name. Ether Innovations is back on track, with me as COO and Alex leading the charge from a slightly more secure and less public position. He's learned that some things are more important than changing the world. But the real healing has been here, with Clara. It took time, so much time. There was anger, confusion, a sense of betrayal that ran deep. How could he lie to her? How could he let her believe he was dead? His answer was always the same. Because the truth was more dangerous than the lie. And I would rather have you hate me and be alive than love me and be in their crosshairs. Slowly, Painstakingly, they are rebuilding. The baby, a little girl they plan to name Hope, is due next month. She will grow up knowing her father is a hero. But more importantly, she will grow up safe. So what's the lesson in all of this? Was my brother right to do what he did? To fake his death? To put us all through that hell? I've asked myself that 1,000 times. I think the lesson is about the masks people wear. The ones we all wear. Robert and Eleanor wore the mask of loving parents and in-laws, but beneath it was greed and desperation. My brother wore the mask of a dead man to protect the people he loved. But the most important mask was the one I had to wear. The mask of the grieving sister who knew nothing. And it taught me that sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is play your part in someone else's plan. That trust isn't always about believing what you're told. Sometimes, it's about having faith in the person telling you, even when the story sounds insane. It taught me that revenge isn't about violence or anger. True, modern revenge is about outsmarting your enemies. It's about using their own greed and arrogance against them. It's about protecting your peace so completely that their downfall is just a footnote in your story of survival. I kept the old funeral program to remind me, not of the loss, but of the day my world ended and began again in the space of a single text message. To remind me that even in the deepest darkness, there can be a thread of light, if you're brave enough to reach for it. What would you have done? If you got that text at your sibling's funeral, would you have believed it? Would you have had the strength to play along? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story of betrayal and ultimate justice resonated with you, if it made you think about the secrets people keep, then hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the shadows of the human heart. This is a story about a funeral that was actually a beginning, about a death that was a resurrection, and a text message that was the most terrifying and beautiful gift I have ever received.